So when I was your age, I had always wondered how the one guy would get all the girls, how the Michael Jordans became the best in the world at basketball, how Tiger Woods became the best in the world at golf. And it was always been curious, like, how do you become the best at something? Is it possible, or is it just a dream that people talk about? And I started to realize that every successful person, whether it was the person who was in peak physical shape, the person who had the dream relationships, or the person at the top of the neighborhood with the best house, I realized that they all had their C.B.A. Now your C.B.A., you can start applying the principles today, but it may take you a lifetime to be able to get it. You know, your MBA takes what, a year or two?
Yeah, 2.
Your C.B.A. you can apply the rest of your life. So C stands for curiosity. What is it that you're curious about? What is it that when you go to bed at night, you can't wait to wake up in the morning? What is something that sparks your curiosity so much that you're willing to do whatever it takes to become the greatest at it? Just like Martin Luther King did with his public speaking, just like Michael Jordan did with his basketball game and his mindset, just like Tiger Woods did to become one of the best ever. So think about that. Dylan, what's something that you're curious about?
I don't know. I guess right now, like life in college.
Life in college. Exactly. So who is someone that you look up to that is out of college they really like?
I guess just like all the college athletes I see.
Yeah, all the college athletes that you see. So going into college, there was someone that I looked up to that was doing a lot of the things that I wanted. He was having internships at the nicest golf courses in the world. And I was like, man, why don't I go to college where he went to college? So that's how I ended up going to Methodist University, was because there was a kid 2 years older than me, and he told me exactly what that was like. And he was actually one of the best in the country, and I believe he won a national championship in 2010. So the B stands for best. You know, what do you want to be the best in the world at? In order to be the best, you probably have to go after something. So me, I went to college at this mandatory seminar, did not want to go. So I'm at Methodist University, I'm at this mandatory seminar, I'm a junior. And I was forced to go because you had to go to get credit. Just like you guys are probably forced to go to this, just like you're probably forced to go to certain things at school. I was in the same situation. So I'm sitting there at night. My roommate actually got in a car accident that night. He was okay, but he didn't get to go to this seminar. And I wonder how our lives would have changed if I didn't go to this seminar because I got in the accident and he was able to go to that seminar. So I go to this seminar, and this guy talks about how he wanted to be the best golf teacher in the country. Butch Harmon, Sean Foley, this guy wanted to be the best in the world. So what did he do to become the best? If you, Dante, wanted to become the best, what would you do? You gotta work hard. You gotta work hard. So I always thought that it was, hey, work hard, put in the long hours, do the work. But then I realized you could only go so far if you didn't apply the B, which is who is the best in the world at what you are going after? Who's the best golfer in the world? Who's having the best college experience in the world? Who's the best at engaging conversations? So this guy said he wanted to be the best golf teacher in the country. So what he did is he wrote down the top 10 people in the world who taught golf. And then he learned, observed, shadowed, studied, met all 10 of them. He ended up becoming not only one of the best in the world, but after that, he started exploring the different sides of the golf business. And now he has a very successful career late into his 70s in the ownership side of the golf business. Some of the top courses that you could possibly think of down south. So this guy, when he said that, I was like, well, why don't I do that? I was curious about the fitness side of golf. I went to school for the PGA professional side, and I quickly realized that that wasn't what was interesting to me. But what interests me was the fitness side, because when I was 17, I met this guy, Greg Peak, down the road, and he took me through this fitness eval. And he said my handicap, my golf fitness handicap was really high. But if I worked on these things, like I could never touch my toes. I was like down to here. And then he got me to touch my toes. He got me to deep squat. And all of a sudden, my handicap started going down on the golf course. And I was hooked. Ever since then, I was hooked. I was curious. I was like, how much better can I get at this fitness thing? So I started learning from the best in the world. And after that talk, I put down my top 10 list. And the number 3 guy on my list was the director of fitness in Sea Island, Georgia. He worked with some of the top pros in the country for a long time. And I reached out to him and I got him on the phone. And he told me at 20 years old, everything I needed to do to be successful in the golf fitness industry. And 6 years later, when you're talking about acceleration, 6 years later, I got voted top 50 and I was on the same list as that guy who gave me that advice 6 years prior to that. I was curious. I was like, how did that happen? Well, after being curious and after learning from the best, I had to apply what he said. So the A stands for apply. So what he told me to do, he said, you got to start with working with junior athletes. He said, you got to start with working with junior athletes because their parents are never afraid to pay. This was true advice. So I started working with junior athletes. And my junior year internship, I ended up working for the guy who won the World Series with the Red Sox the year before as their strength and conditioning consultant. Then the next summer, I went to work for this guy down in Palm Beach, Florida. His name was David Donatucci. He trained Brooks Koepka, Daniel Berger, Stacy Lewis, to name a few. And now Michelle Wee, if you remember her. So now I'm 22 years old, and now I'm getting exposed to the best golfers in America. But I had to apply the knowledge. So I went up to Greenwich, Connecticut, and I started working. And I had to get in the reps, And then in 2020, Golf Digest calls me and they say, hey, we want to do an article with you. So I said, okay. And so I applied all that knowledge, and then we did an article on the Bryson experiment. Could physical training and gaining weight help you hit the ball farther? Now, I knew that wasn't going to be a sustainable thing because he had way too much weight on. And it turned out that was the case. Now he's losing a lot of weight. But that article, getting in Golf Digest, my book sold about 20 to 30 a month. Not this one, a different one. My golf fitness book sold about 20 to 30 a month. I got in that article. It sold 278 books that month. So I was like, wow, this is interesting. Not only was I learning from the best, but I was working with the best. I was working with Golf Digest. Then later on, PGA.com calls me. They're like, hey, Brandon, we want to do some articles with you. I was like, oh, okay, let's do some articles. Next thing you know, I was doing videos with PGA.com and writing articles for PGA.com. And I was like, wow, C.B.A. really could take you a long way. So think about this, because you can apply this in all aspects of your life. I actually retired from golf fitness recently, and I'm pursuing my personal development business full time, where I help people with their public speaking and I help people with their business. But I'm applying the same principles I learned to become one of the most elite golf fitness professionals in the world as I pursue this endeavor. And you guys can too. If you are curious and you explore that curiosity, if you say, okay, now this is something that lights me up, who is the best in the world at that? Who is really good at that? Now let me go learn from them. Okay, now that I learned from them, something else has to happen if I want to get the results. And I have to apply what they taught me. So if you can do that with all aspects of your life, not only are you going to have your C.B.A., but you're going to make a massive impact, you're going to inspire a lot of people, and you're going to do some incredible things. So thank you guys for listening to me today. And remember, C.B.A.